Anakin chose that moment to ignite his lightsaber and jump, Torrent following behind him with the firefly glow of their jetpacks. Cody and Obi-Wan watched as they landed, Anakin on top of the tri-droid and Rex and Torrent at its feet. The distraction worked. All three Octuptara droids focused on Anakin standing on the head of one and Rex and Torrent buzzing around their feet like little bugs. Obi-Wan sensed the opening in the Force and stood, giving the signal to charge. Forward. Move. Move. Move! Ghost Company let out a roar, and as one they took off. A raging river of white and gold bodies, pressing against the droid advance and stopping the machines in their tracks. Obi-Wan leapt into the fray, the first one to hit the droid line and slice 3 of them in half without even blinking. Behind him, Kaz dropped 2 more and Force pushed a section away, knocking them over like dominoes. Battle cry ripping from his chest, Cody swung forward with his rifle, drawing on the Force to strengthen his muscles, and smashed the butt into a droid's head, spinning into 3 perfect roundhouse kicks and felling a few more. He reared back, regaining his footing, attention sharpening like the edge of a knife, and dropped 5 more with quick shots from his blaster. "Aha, get him!" Kaz called, triumphant grin on his face. He looked over his shoulder at Waxer, who had just caught up with him. "Boyle, not too far behind him. You see that, Waxer?" "Oh yeah," Waxer called, blowing away his own cluster of battle droids. 2-1-2, Oya, Kaz shouted, and it was echoed around him as they all charged forward. Crash. One of the tri-droids dropped like a sack of steel, hitting the ground with a bang. Thunder followed in its wake as the heavy cannons fired a coordinated volley, decimating part of the enemy advance. Obi-Wan pressed forward, deflecting fire and cutting droids in half as he went. He looked up, spotting Anakin jumping from the fallen tri-droid to the next, reflecting back its fire towards the other remaining one, causing it to explode in a wild gutter of flames. Back. Flipping off the top of the last Octuptara, Anakin sliced through its legs, causing it to fall and explode. That was the last one down. This, of course, was the moment the enemy general ordered their tank line to advance. However, the Third System's army was up to the task, their heavy cannons fully recharged and loaded, taking out the tanks as they approached on the bridge, all the rubble creating a convenient choke point for the Republic's forces to pin them in. Anakin skidded up next to Obi-Wan, seamlessly integrating himself into Obi-Wan's movements. "We're gonna need reinforcements." "I still haven't heard from Admiral Yularen. We aren't gonna last long against these tanks. We don't really have a choice." All-out chaos continued for a handful of minutes before the droid army suddenly pulled back, retreating down the bridge. A tinge of worry worked its way into Obi-Wan's mind at this maneuver, but he was too grateful for the break to look at it any deeper. It was clear that their cannons were still extremely effective, and if they had kept pressing that choked advance, the Separatist army would have likely incurred heavy losses. "They're pulling back," Anakin said, hope bleeding into his voice. A shuttle flew overhead before Obi-Wan could respond to that, saber deactivating as the droids ceased firing at them. He let out a sigh, and his shoulders relaxed. "Looks like help has arrived." "I sure hope so, sir," Cody said emphatically. "Cody, Rex, stay here and help the men get set up for the next offensive push," Obi-Wan ordered. "Anakin, Kaz and I will go see what that shuttle has brought us." "Yes, sir," Rex said. He and Cody moved off as one, easily taking charge of the troopers on the field. "I sense that there's more to this than just reinforcements," Anakin said as they followed the shuttle to where it was turning in the air to land. "Yes, I agree," Obi-Wan replied, clipping his saber to his belt and stroking his beard. "This does mean our cruiser is back, which means, even if they aren't on this shuttle, we'll still be able to get our reinforcements. We might keep Christophsis yet, Obi-Wan," Anakin said, smiling. "I just want a nap," Kaz said, leaning around Obi-Wan to speak to Anakin. Anakin laughed. Yeah, me too. A nice, long, uninterrupted nap. Well, you might get your wish. Fresh troops, new supplies. And I sensed something else. Something for you, Anakin. Obi-Wan said, giving Anakin a knowing look. Anakin frowned over at him. What? For me? Yes, for you. Obi-Wan gestured easily with his right hand towards his old apprentice. You know, Anakin, you're so good with Kaz. Have you considered teaching yourself? What, me? No, Master, not really. He shook his head and smirked. Besides, a Padawan would only slow me down. I don't know about that. Obi-Wan said mildly. Besides, it's a Jedi's duty to train the next generation. You should think about doing your part. Yeah, I don't know, Obi-Wan. I don't think I'm cut out to be a teacher. And besides, you really think I should bring a temple Padawan into all this? Anakin flung his hands out wide, encompassing the whole planet with the movement. Well, I'm here. Kaz pointed out logically. Yeah, but you weren't raised in the temple. Anakin argued back, manner easy and relaxed as they ambled towards the shuttle. You were trained for this, even if you didn't finish it. A Jedi Padawan grows up differently, sheltered. They aren't ready for this. I don't know, Anakin. Obi-Wan interjected lightly. I still think you should consider it. You'd make an excellent teacher. Maybe. They came to a stop in front of the shuttle just as the docking ramp was lowering. R2 wheeled up to them, whistling to himself. Kaz gave him a light pat on his domed head, causing the droid to wiggle back and forth. They watched the ramp drop in a hiss of steam as the environmental seals in the shuttle broke. The haze cleared and revealed a small, oddly horned figure standing at the top of the ramp. Obi-Wan blinked in surprise as the small being walked towards them, turning into the familiar shape of a young Togruta. His eyebrows nearly hit his hairline when he noticed the shuttle was empty, except for its sole passenger. A youngling? I thought we were supposed to be getting troopers. Kaz trailed off, eyebrows cocked in confusion. And who are you supposed to be? Anakin asked, as the girl stopped in front of them, R2 whistling excitedly at his side. I'm Ahsoka, she said, looking back and forth between Obi-Wan and Anakin. She straightened, pulling confidence around her like she had been trained. Master Yoda sent me. I was told to tell both of you that you must get back to the Jedi Temple immediately. There's an emergency. Well, I don't know if you've noticed, Anakin started, tone slightly combative and right hand moving through the air as he leaned towards Ahsoka. Go! But we're in a bit of an emergency right here. He pointed towards the ground at his feet. Yes, our communications have been a bit unreliable, but we've been calling for help. Obi-Wan intervened, right arm crossed over his chest, left elbow propped on it and left hand lazily gesturing. Master Yoda hadn't heard from you, so he sent me to deliver the message. Guess that means they don't know we're in deep? Kaz said, palms up and shrugging. Great! Anakin exclaimed, running a hand through his hair and turning around to walk away. They don't even know we're in trouble. Maybe you can relay a signal through the cruiser that just dropped me off, Ahsoka suggested hopefully, clearly wishing to be helpful. Obi-Wan and Anakin shared a quick look, and Obi-Wan turned to the Jedi youngling standing hesitantly in front of them. He had the fleeting thought that Anakin may have been right. She looked very young. That might work. Good idea. Our mobile command center is just over there. Kaz pointed to a spot a few dozen yards away. Right. Ahsoka mumbled. She rallied and started to head over. Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Kaz following. She looked over at Kaz, a confused frown on her face. Aren't you a little young for a clone trooper? And what's that armor you've got on? It doesn't look like the others. Kaz stuttered. I'll explain it after we've contacted the council. Obi-Wan forestalled any further questions as they gathered around the holotable that had been set up earlier in the day. He keyed up the connection and, to his surprise, was able to raise the Resolute. Oh, it's connected. Looks like they're back. That's good news. Anakin breathed out a relieved sigh. Definitely. Kaz agreed. He grinned over at Obi-Wan. Maybe now I can get that nap. Perhaps. Obi-Wan said with a smile. A blue hologram appeared in the middle of the holotable, stalling their banter. It was one of the soft-shell officers on the bridge, General Kenobi. Yes, hello. It's good to finally make contact, but I'm afraid we must ask you for a favor. Can you establish a communications line with the Coruscant Temple? We're under attack by separatist warships, but I'll try to make contact with the Jedi Temple for you. Stand by! The officer's hologram disappeared before Obi-Wan could respond, replaced with a steady beep that indicated a connection attempt was being made. They all stood around the table awkwardly, not saying much and shifting. Ahsoka fidgeted, right hand touching an odd second lightsaber on her belt. Obi-Wan recognized it as one of the training lightsabers from Master Dralig's collection. He used to teach the initiates and younglings basic lightsaber forms. He did not have long to wonder why she had such a thing as Master Yoda's hologram abruptly appeared in the middle of the holotable. Master Kenobi, glad Ahsoka found you, I am. Master Yoda, Obi-Wan inclined his head slightly in greeting, then went straight to business. We are trapped here, and are vastly outnumbered. We are in no position to go anywhere or do anything. Our support ships have all been destroyed. Send reinforcements to you. We will. I, Burzit, can Doc be Zert. Master Yoda. Obi-Wan called as the old master's hologram began to sputter and fizz out, the connection dropping. Master Yoda. The clone officer from earlier was once again in the middle of the holotable. I'm sorry, sir. We've lost the transmission. I don't think. He paused, two more troopers coming up behind him swiftly. One of the newcomers took over the transmission. We have to leave orbit immediately. More enemy ships have just arrived. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. The officer's hologram faded out too, and the call ended, leaving them once again standing around the table. Anakin was the one to break the silence. Well, I guess we'll have to hold out a little longer. He didn't sound happy about it, crossing his arms over his chest and glaring at the ground. Obi-Wan heaved a sigh and turned towards Ahsoka. He could feel the poor girl's discomfort in the Force, and decided to try and help. He had a feeling he knew why she was here, and it would probably only set Anakin off further. He smiled at her and walked over. My apologies, young one. I suppose it's time for some proper introductions. She smiled at him, grateful for the reprieve. She inclined her head in a slight bow, then stood tall and strong. I'm the new Padawan learner. I'm Ahsoka Tano. Wait a minute, Anakin exclaimed, looking worriedly between Ahsoka and Kaz. Obi-Wan, you told the council you'd already gotten a new Padawan. They saw Kaz and everything. I was there! Kaz frowned, his worry flaring out into the Force as he hurried to Obi-Wan's side. Master, did they change their minds? No, Kaz, they didn't. Obi-Wan placed a comforting hand on Kaz's shoulder. He turned his calculating gaze to Ahsoka. Besides, I'm quite certain she isn't here for me. But you were the one that requested a Padawan a few weeks ago, Obi-Wan. Anakin said slowly, still frowning. Master Kenobi is right, Ahsoka said, a bit of mischief making its way onto her face and in her voice. She smirked and, lifting her right hand, pointed it at Anakin. I've been assigned to Master Skywalker. Kaz threw his head back in unrestrained laughter, staggering into Obi-Wan in order to keep his feet. Oh, no way. What? Anakin yelped. He paced around behind Obi-Wan's hands, waving frantically in the air. No, 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 no. There must be some mistake. He pointed aggressively at Obi-Wan. He's the one who wanted a Padawan. No, Master Yoda was very specific. I'm assigned to Anakin Skywalker, and he's to supervise my Jedi training. She closed her eyes and nodded, as if saying the phrase from memory. Obi-Wan smirked over at Anakin, his delight at the situation radiating out into the Force. He grabbed Kaz around the shoulders when the boy doubled over, wheezing in silent giggles. Anakin glared back at him. His voice was desperate when he spoke. But that doesn't make any sense. We'll have to sort this out later. Obi-Wan interrupted, sounding far too pleased with himself. He shoved Kaz upright. Settle down, Padawan. He turned back to Anakin. It won't be long until those droids find a way past our cannons. Anakin clenched his jaw, glare intensifying. I better go check on Rex at the lookout post. Obi-Wan smirked back at him, not at all affected by Anakin's petulance. He gave Ahsoka a light nudge between her shoulder blades. Yes, better take her with you. She smirked at Anakin's retreating back, taking his silence as consent, and took a few steps before suddenly stopping. Oh! She spun around, unclipping the training saber from her belt. She held it out to Obi-Wan. Master Yoda said this was for you. Not sure why, though. Ah, of course. Obi-Wan took the training saber from her gratefully. It's for my Padawan, Ahsoka Tano. Meet Kaz. Oh, wow, Ahsoka exclaimed, looking at Kaz with wide eyes. You have the Force? I didn't know clones could have the Force. That's so cool. She thrust her hand out to Kaz for him to shake. I'm Ahsoka. Pleased to meet you. Hi, I'm Kaz. Kaz chirped back, shaking her hand quickly. He smiled. Glad to meet you too. I bet we'll train together a lot. Ahsoka said, the idea of it seeming to fill her with happiness. Since my master was your master's Padawan. Oh yeah, probably. Kaz agreed easily. They were stopped from saying more when Anakin's distant shout cut through the air. Hey, are you coming or what? Sorry, Ahsoka yelped, sprinting away after him. Obi-Wan and Kaz watched her go before Obi-Wan turned to face Kaz fully. He held out the training saber. This, Padawan, is for you. Kaz reached out and took it reverently. He'd only been able to run through a few katas with his master's lightsaber the whole time they'd been on planet. Too busy with fighting the droid army, but now that he had his own, he could do even more practice with it. He held it carefully in both hands and smiled up at Obi-Wan, stars in his eyes. Thank you, Master. Now, keep in mind, this is just a training lightsaber. Obi-Wan cautioned. It doesn't have the power of a regular one. You'll be able to deflect infantry fire. But don't try it for anything bigger than a blaster rifle. And it won't cut through the droids either. It's not made for that. Got it. Kaz nodded. He reached down and carefully attached the belt clip hanging from the end to his utility belt, watching as the saber swung gently against his hip. He grinned back up at his master again. "This is still wizard." Obi-Wan laughed. "Yes, very. As soon as we clear up this mess here on Christophsis and go see what the Council wants on Coruscant, I'll see about arranging a trip to Elon for you to get your own Kyber crystal. As a Jedi Padawan, you should have your own lightsaber." "Really? Wow." Kaz was nearly hopping up and down from excitement. "I can't wait." He took off at a clip back towards the battlefield. "Come on, Master." See, Maul, Master. Let's go find Cody and kick these droids back to their home world." Obi-Wan just shook his head and followed after him, knowing that Kaz would be able to find Cody nearly anywhere in the galaxy by now. The two of them were nearly inseparable. Kaz idolized Cody. It was quite endearing. They found the good commander out near the heavy cannons, coordinating the organized chaos that was shift change, cannon recharge and reload, and new battle positions for the men. Waxer, Boyle, and Helix were with him, and they all looked over when Kaz pounded up next to them, chest heaving from his sprint. Pulling the lightsaber from his belt, Kaz thrust it out nearly under Cody's nose, causing the commander to rear back, startled. "Cody, Cody, 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 look!" Cody's hands were up in the classic "don't shoot me" pose, and he took a surprised half-step back, almost going cross-eyed looking at the saber hilt right up to his face. Gently, he pushed it back with the tips of his fingers, fondly exasperated. I see that, Kaz." "I got a lightsaber," Kaz crowed. He jumped back, giving himself a few meters of space, and then held it out in front of him, and ignited it for the first time. It came to life with a familiar hum, and the emerald green blade glowed like the glass of Christophsis. "Where'd you get that from?" Cody asked, both impressed and confused. "Not that I'm not impressed. It's impressive, kid. Just, He looked over at Obi-Wan in hope of a rescue. "It came on the shuttle that just landed." Obi-Wan answered, coming over to join them at a more sedate pace. He stopped next to Cody and crossed his arms over his chest, appraising Kaz's new lightsaber for the first time as well. "I thought that was supposed to be our reinforcements," Waxer said, some of his excitement draining away in the face of what appeared to be mildly bad news. "Oh, those are on the way," Obi-Wan answered. He gestured easily in the air with his left hand. "Master Yoda sent a messenger to us because he couldn't reach us by comm. This came with her." "Her?" Boyle asked, sharing a confused look with Waxer. Obi-Wan smirked, his smug glee from earlier returning. "Yes, Anakin's new Padawan, Ahsoka Tano. No Griffin way." Helix breathed. He slapped his hands over his mouth to stop the laughter that tried to escape. "Oh, yes, way," Chaz said, waving his saber around and grinning at the sounds it made. "Way." He looked over at Helix. He was so mad, it was hilarious. I thought he was gonna combust. Cody started chuckling, pressing the knuckles of one hand to his lips. He shared a look with Obi-Wan. "Rex isn't going to be able to handle it. This is payback for everything he ever put me through." Obi-Wan laughed a little with him. "Well, at least Kaz was good practice." "No, Kaz was getting off easy." He smiled over at the kid. You hear that, kid? You're a dream compared to a regular Padawan commander. Kaz smirked and switched off the saber, scampering over to stand at Cody's other side. He casually looped his arm around the commander's ribs, giving him a quick side hug before stepping back. Thanks, Cody. He clipped his saber back to his belt, then put his hands on his hips and gave Cody a suspicious look. But why? You weren't raised in their temple to pull crazy stunts that could get you killed, and you follow orders. Cody replied. He scrubbed a hand quick through Kaz's hair, ruffling it and causing it to stick out wildly, making the cadet laugh. When I say stay behind me, I don't have to worry about if you will or not. You just do. You just do. It's refreshing. Master Obi-Wan said if I didn't follow orders on the battlefield that I would never step foot on it again for the rest of my natural life. Kaz answered smartly, clearly a direct quote. He shrugged. He was serious too. This caused laughter to break out amongst the assembled troopers and made Obi-Wan smile ruefully. Yes, well, I am pleased you listened to me. Makes a nice change, doesn't it, sir? Cody gave him a knowing look that suddenly turned teasing. He looked over at Kaz, placing a hand on the cadet's shoulder. Hey, kid, do me a favor. Kaz narrowed his eyes in suspicion at Cody's falsely innocent expression, sensing mischief, but not sure who it was directed at. Sure. Don't drop that lightsaber. Cody said solemnly. He smirked back over at Obi-Wan before bending a little at the waist to look Kaz in the eye. That weapon is your life, young one. Try not to lose it. Cody. Obi-Wan spluttered as laughter erupted around them again, this time at his expense. Cody couldn't keep a straight face any longer, devolving into his own laughter and grinning unrepentantly at Obi-Wan. Sorry, sir. The opportunity was too good to pass up. I couldn't resist. Obi-Wan narrowed his eyes in a mock glare, then tilted his head back imperiously, giving Cody a side-eyed look down his nose. Couldn't or wouldn't, Commander. Cody laughed, eyes dancing with mischief. Maybe a little of both, sir. He's got you there, General. Waxer said after he'd calmed down enough to not need Boyle to keep him upright. You did say that to Skywalker a lot, and then turn right around and drop your own lightsaber. Boyle continued where Waxer left off. Kaz gave them both an inquiring look. Oh wait, that was actually a Jedi thing Cody just told me? He looked back at Cody. Was that a Jedi thing? Obi-Wan shook his head in exasperation and answered for the commander. Go! Yes, Padawan, it was. He cleared his throat, taking on the look and posture he did when he was imparting knowledge. There is actually a meditation and a mantra surrounding the lightsaber, the Force, and the Jedi. When you get your own, it wouldn't be wrong to say that weapon is your life, or more accurately, an extension of it. Kaz looked down at the training saber hanging on his belt thoughtfully. Can I meditate with this one? You could try, though you wouldn't be met with much success. Obi-Wan answered. The training sabers are made from synthetic kyber. The real thing is far too rare to waste on something like a training blade. It would require the Jedi who uses it to bond with it like they would their own lightsaber. Not exactly ideal to teach multiple classes and generations of Jedi younglings with. Yeah, guess not. Kaz's lips twisted a little in disappointment. So, I can't bond with this one? No, but you can certainly learn on it. Obi-Wan replied, smiling encouragingly at Kaz. It will keep you safe and let you practice when you get your own. It will probably be an entirely different color and design, as it should be. A lightsaber is an extension of you, and it should reflect the qualities and characteristics that make you, you. Kaz looked significantly cheered at this news. He patted the saber on his belt. Got it. I'll do my best to be ready then, Master. Good. Obi-Wan set his attention back to Cody. Are we all set here, Commander? Yes, sir. Just finished. Cody answered, taking that as his cue to put his helmet back on. The others around him followed suit. Ready to get back to it, General? Off we go then. The General gave Waxer, Boyle, and Helix a jaunty wave. We'll be seeing you. Of course, sir. Helix waved back with a grin. In one piece, please. Yes, Helix. Obi-Wan flicked his hand idly over the back of his head in acknowledgement, but kept on going. They had preparations to see to, after all, and the Force was sending him a light tendril of warning, a whisper that perhaps something was not quite right. After a short walk, they came upon their makeshift field command center, Cody going over the information readouts that had been sent to him from the different units on the ground. Kaz over in an empty space with his new lightsaber going through the few katas he knew with deliberate movements. And Obi-Wan at the holotable itself, looking at the latest map the probe droids and scouts had transmitted over. They had about 10 minutes of peace before Anakin, Rex, and Ahsoka came running up to them, urgency fueling their steps. Obi-Wan sighed. This must be the source of that warning, he thought resignedly to himself. Anakin, what seems to be the trouble? Check the updated map, Master, Anakin said by way of greeting. Sector 922. While Obi-Wan did that, Cody wandered over, leaving his helmet on the console he just vacated. Kaz shut off his lightsaber, clipping it to his belt with careful, unfamiliar movements, then walked over, lifting his goggles from his face and resting them on the top of his helmet. They'd added some padding to the inside so it no longer wobbled about on his head, and the lone scorch mark on the left side bore witness to its effectiveness at protecting its wearer. It was the one and only shot that had made it past Obi-Wan's defenses. He'd not let another through since. Oh, hey, Kaz, Ahsoka greeted with a cheery wave. Your lightsaber form was looking pretty good. Captain Rex said you'd only been training for 2 weeks. Kaz jogged over to join her, waving back and smiling. Yeah, only been training to be a Jedi for 2 weeks, but I learned how to fight with all kinds of weapons back on Kamino. I thought some of those moves looked familiar, Rex said, crossing his arms and letting the fingers of one hand play along the top edge of his chest plate. Baskat. Yeah, it's a little awkward, but I know it better than she too. Kaz shrugged his reply, resting one hand on the hilt of his saber, the other on the grip of his DC-17. Baskat? Sounds Mandalorian. Shh. It is, Kaz said easily, but it's meant to be used with a sword that has the weight evenly balanced between the hilt, tang, and blade, so some of the movements don't line up right with a lightsaber. The footwork translates over really well, though. Oh dear, Obi-Wan breathed, interrupting Ahsoka and Kaz's idle conversation. He looked down at the map. A giant shield was now displayed over the opposing army. That's not good. No, it isn't. Anakin agreed, crossing his arms over his chest and glaring down at the map. What we gonna do about it, Master? Any ideas? We need to find the source first. Cody spoke up for the first time, attention focused on the map displaying from the table. He pointed at a spot inside the shield. There, you think, General? I think so, Cody. Obi-Wan said distractedly, leaning on the table and peering intently at the map. He pushed back and nodded. Yes, I do believe you're right. The shield generator is there in the center, and as they advance, they keep expanding the diameter to cover their troops. Rex pointed at the map, eyes hard. Heavy cannons are going to be useless against that. Worse than useless, Cody agreed. They're going to be in the way as soon as they push up to our lines. As they get closer, I suppose we could try to draw them into the buildings. Obi-Wan suggested, bending over and pointing at the rectangular shapes that represented Christophs' city on the map. That might level the playing field a bit. Maybe, sir, but our limited numbers are going to make that difficult. It's better than outright street fighting, but I still don't like it. Cody said, coming around to stand by Obi-Wan and peer at the map. Maybe get inside it somehow? Hide out until the shield passes over us? We'd be vulnerable to attack until they got close enough for that to be effective. If they got wind of our positions. Obi-Wan trailed off, standing from his bend over the map. He shook his head and crossed his arms, fingers gripping at opposite elbows. We haven't had the best of luck with ambushes this time around. Yeah, that's one way to put it. Rex muttered darkly. It's the whole reason we're in this mess. Well, if the shield is going to be such a problem, why don't we just take it out? Ahsoka suggested, walking around from Kaz's side to stand between Cody and Anakin. That's easier said than done. Rex answered, arms dropping to his sides. Well, I, for one. Anakin trailed off, lifting a fist to his mouth and clearing his throat, eyes shifty. Agree with her. He straightened up and continued. Someone has to get to that shield generator and destroy it. That's the key. Obi-Wan and Cody shared the briefest of knowing looks. Obi-Wan spoke, fighting to keep the smile from his lips. Right then. Maybe you two can tiptoe through enemy lines and solve this problem together. Can do, Master Kenobi. Ahsoka immediately agreed, nodding assertively. I'll decide what we do. Anakin instantly objected with his hands on his hips, causing Ahsoka's head to whip around and give him a look. Obi-Wan ignored him entirely, instead pointing to buildings and streets on the map. If Rex, Cody, and I can engage them here, he moved his hand, pointing to a new spot. You might be able to slip through undetected here. They won't have much time, Rex said, shifting his weight from one foot to the other and putting his right hand on his utility belt. The droids far outnumber us, so like you said earlier, our ability to street fight is limited. We can't use the heavy cannons because of the shield, so they'll just march forward under its protection until they're right on top of our cannons, and then they'll blow them away. Cody sighed heavily, left hand scrubbing at the back of his neck. He gestured with his other hand at the map. I agree. But I also think it's the best plan we've got. We can hold it long enough for General Skywalker and Padawan Tano to disable the shield. He absently flicked his lightsaber back and forth against his thigh. It'll give me a chance to practice deflecting blaster bolts at least. We'll figure out a way, Ahsoka said brightly. She nodded and turned to Anakin. Come on, Master, let's go. With that, Anakin and Ahsoka turned, walking away towards the section of road they were going to leverage to their advantage. As they went, Anakin growled out, If we survive this, Snips, you and I are going to have a talk. Rex blew out an exasperated breath, eyes tracking the newest Master and Padawan pair as they went. They make quite a pair, don't they, sir? He looked away and back at General Kenobi. Do you think they have a chance? They'd better. If they can't turn off that shield generator before it reaches the heavy cannons, there'll be no escape for any of us. Obi-Wan answered, once again bracing on the table and leaning over the map. Well, that's comforting, Kaz said, eyes round and arms dangling at his sides. I'm sorry, Padawan, Obi-Wan apologized, voice heavy. He pushed away from the map and walked over to Kaz, resting a hand lightly on the cadet's shoulder. But I fear that this campaign has pushed our forces to the brink. But have faith. The Force will provide. I have full confidence in Anakin. He hasn't let us down yet. Cody agreed, putting a hand on Kaz's helmet and giving it a light wiggle, offering him a reassuring smile. We'll hold out long enough to give them time to work, kid. Yeah, Kaz answered non-committally. He turned to Rex, changing the subject in an effort to not think about how everything could go horribly wrong in the next hour. So how did you like Ahsoka? She seemed nice. Ah, yeah, nice. Rex answered haltingly. He shrugged, trying to maintain an air of disinterest, but not exactly succeeding. Cody spotted him out immediately and pounced on it, like any good older sibling would. What's the matter, Rex? New commander already giving you trouble? Ah, what? No trouble. Rex backpedaled quickly, realizing his mistake, hands up and palms out, sketching a negative in the air. Cody's expression was sly. Because that's the face you make when everything is fine. Rex scowled at him, arms crossing over his chest and hips canting out in defiance. Yes, for your information it is. I'm sure it will all work out fine, Rex. Obi-Wan said, I could see it in the Force. They make a good pair. Whatever kinks their first meeting wrought won't last for long. How can you tell? Rex asked, head tilting to the side in interest. I could feel the currents of the Force moving around them, and the beginning of a training bond. Obi-Wan answered. He chuckled, giving Rex a conspiratorial look. And besides, she's just like him, blunt, reckless, and brave. They'll get along famously. If that was meant to reassure me, General, I think you missed the mark. Rex said worriedly, I don't think I can handle any more of General Skywalker's brand of recklessness. Oh, I don't know, Rex. Cody walked over and clapped his brother on the shoulder, giving him a light shake. You've got your own brand of reckless that fits right in. I would know. He turned his attention to General Kenobi. So, General, any suggestions for this distraction? Yes, I have a few. One 15-minute planning session later found them all vacating the command center and heading to the heavy cannon line. It was decided that was where they would make their last stand, pulling in all their troops and fortifying the location as much as they were able. It also worked to make that side of the city very tasty bait for the droid army. So tasty Obi-Wan was sure they would not resist, which would give Anakin and Ahsoka unrestricted access to their side of the field. The plan was still thin, like all their plans seemed to be, but there was nothing for it. It was what they had to work with. Obi-Wan stepped up next to Rex and Cody and waited. Kaz was at his side, sandwiched between himself and Cody, like always. However, unlike earlier in the day, Kaz now had his very own lightsaber in his right hand, his fingers nervously spinning the hilt as he stared out at the empty bridge they'd claimed for their battleground. He was oozing anxiety out into the Force, but was doing a good job of keeping calm and releasing the emotion before it became too much. Kaz had only been his Padawan for 2 weeks, but Obi-Wan could easily say he was proud of him. The experience had been both rewarding and uncomfortable for Obi-Wan, as the contrast Kaz drew with Anakin shined a very bright light on Obi-Wan's own flaws as a teacher. He had already consciously stopped himself more than once from making both the same mistakes Qui-Gon had made with him and the ones he had made with Anakin. His former apprentice had already noticed the change, but had not worked up enough nerve to challenge him on it yet. But Obi-Wan knew that very uncomfortable conversation was most definitely in his future. He was not looking forward to it. He held out hope that perhaps Ahsoka would soften some of Anakin's rougher edges and give him some maturity when looking back on his own training. Teaching a Padawan was no easy task, and it necessitated difficult choices, some of which were awful no matter what. Obi-Wan could say, even though he was perhaps too critical with Anakin at times, he'd at least let him know that he was wanted and cared for, something Qui-Gon had struggled with. Obi-Wan could list 100 other things that he'd gotten wrong, but at least that he had gotten right. Master, I think I see them. Kaz tugged on Obi-Wan's wrist, snapping the older Jedi out of his thoughts, and pointed down the road at a collection of tiny moving specks. I think you're right, Padawan, Obi-Wan said, lifting his viewfinder to his eyes and scanning the horizon. Ah, yes, there they are. Guess that means we're about to have company, sir. Rex reached down, pulling his twin blasters from his holster and giving them a spin, then wrapping his fingers around the grip into ready position. Indeed, it does, Obi-Wan said. The glowing red line of the droid's shield generator seemed to take forever to move, their marching pace feeling like a crawl to all the men gathered near the cannons. Currently, the plan was to attempt to fire the cannons and see if that was enough to break the shield, in the hopes that in their eagerness to push forward, the droids had stretched the shield itself too thin. Neither Rex, Cody, nor Obi-Wan thought that would be successful. But it hurt nothing for them to try it anyway. Cody felt like the passage of time was stuck in tree sap, a slow, oozing progress that didn't seem like anything at all, until you went away and came back. The Force was moving easily around him, its sense of warning muted and indistinct, telling him that they were in danger. But it was far off. Cody still did not appreciate the vague impressions the Force foisted upon him, but he'd resigned himself to it, as no matter what he seemed to do or how he shielded, the feeling did not go away. He hadn't had the chance to bring it up to the General yet, and if they survived this upcoming battle, he planned to do it as soon as they left orbit. The mission the Jedi Council had given them was still weighing heavily in the back of his mind, but until they unstuck themselves from Christophsis, their hands were well and truly tied. He was cheered at least a little by Kaz's acquisition of a lightsaber. While not a fully functional Jedi weapon, it still offered far more defensive capability than the lone DC-17 blaster the kid had. It was better than no lightsaber at all, so Cody was willing to count it as a win. I think they're in range, Cody, Rex said, interrupting Cody's thoughts. Cody blinked back to himself, looking over at General Kenobi. What do you think, sir? I agree, Kenobi said, lowering the viewfinder from his eyes. Give the order to fire. Let's see what happens. Cody keyed up his comlink, raising his right arm above his head to get the attention of the gunners. He tuned into their frequency in his helmet, calmed, then called out, "Fire all!" Thunderous. The sounds of the cannons firing split the unnatural quiet that had descended up on the city. The rounds impacted harmlessly onto the surface of the shield, and Cody felt his shoulders drop, even though he knew that was likely going to be the outcome. Well, that did exactly what we thought it would. Kaz breathed out, idly tossing his lightsaber end over end and catching it easily in the palm of his hand. We've nothing else to do but keep at it until they get closer. At the very least, it will convince them that we are all here and distract them from Anakin and his new Padawan, General Kenobi said, raising the viewfinder to get a better look, then dropping it. That's about all it'll do, sir, Cody said pessimistically. The Force's warning was picking up steam, and it was making him uncomfortable in his skin. I have a bad feeling about this, General. Obi-Wan sighed heavily and glanced at Cody in his periphery. As do I, Commander, but it's too late now. Only onward, sir. Only onward. It didn't take long for all hell to break loose. The droids just kept coming. Implacable machines that didn't need food or rest, didn't feel pain or anguish or fear. They just kept marching, the drumbeat of their lockstep motion muffled by the anemic red dome above their heads. Cody and Obi-Wan and Rex shouted commands, rallied the men, fired volley after ineffectual volley from the cannons until the droids and their tanks were nearly upon them and only one option remained. Tell the men to pull back, Obi-Wan ordered, voice sounding like it caused him physical pain to say it. It was bad, and they knew it. They were giving ground they couldn't afford to give, but they were out of options. It was retreat or die. They fell back. As they ran, the backup plan was put into effect. They had enough lead time on the droid advance to attempt their ambush once again. They split up, Cody taking Ghost Company on one side of the bridge, and Rex taking Torrent Company to the other. Cody and Obi-Wan had a brief argument about what to do with Kaz. Either hide him as far away as they could or keep him close, and wound up with a compromise. If Obi-Wan had to pull any death-defying stunts, which was looking increasingly likely, Kaz was to stick to Cody's side like a burr and stay there no matter what happened. Cody was not in favor of Obi-Wan leaving the cadet at all. His instincts at war with his military mind so fiercely he wasn't sure what the outcome would be if push came to shove. There was little time to dwell on it. He hunkered down at the top of the building with Kaz, hands clenching and unclenching around the barrel of his DC-15A, sweat pooling in his blacks, and a sense of dread courtesy of the Force swimming in his guts. The jetpack he'd gotten from Torrent Company was heavy on his back, an emergency item, in case he needed to take Kaz and fly. When the energy field passed over them, Cody felt the electric zing in his motors as it flashed his vision red for a moment. Alarm lanced through him, and he looked over at General Kenobi. He could feel the man planning some Jedi thing, and it made him want to throttle the general within an inch of his life. "We're inside the shield," Obi-Wan said, head resting on the ledge behind him. He locked eyes with Cody. "You keep him safe, Cody." "General, what are you?" "Just watch out for those tanks, Commander." That was all the warning Obi-Wan gave Cody and Kaz before he ignited his lightsaber and jumped from the roof, Kaz and Cody's startled shouts following him down. His lightsaber swung at his side like a blue signal flare as he sailed through the air to land right on the head of a B-2 super battle droid. "Yeah, Jedi." The droids shrieked around him, stabbing the one he'd landed on through the head. Obi-Wan flipped through the air and went after the rest, a whirling tornado of blue fire, cutting everything in his path to pieces. Around him, the troopers cabled down from the building below, leaving only the snipers up on the edges of the roof to pick off any droids they could get a shot at. They swarmed in next to him, and Obi-Wan covered their descent as best he could. The blowtorch hiss of a jetpack sounded next to him as Cody landed, clutching Kaz, who had his green saber out and was already deflecting blaster bolts. Master Yoda had been quite timely in his intervention, Obi-Wan thought wildly. Their ambush bought them some time, but the droids had them in both numbers and equipment. The tanks alone would have done it, but they had a new set of tri-droids lumbering in that made the whole thing a losing battle from the outset. "Next time, warn me, General," Cody snapped, punching a B-2 so hard he collapsed in a significant portion of its torso, causing sparks to fly and smoke to hiss out of its joints. Cody's ability to enhance his physical strength, the way he did with the Force, was something rarely seen in Jedi, least of all human ones. Obi-Wan was constantly impressed by it. "Sorry, Commander. There wasn't time. Mate time." Cody snapped back. He spun, taking out 2 more droids with blaster bolts. "Kid on the left! I got it!" Kaz switched his saber to his left hand and pulled his blaster, not missing a beat, deflecting 2 shots back at a set of droids and then shooting the third. "Well, then," Obi-Wan spun his own blade in an intricate dance, and as he and Cody crept back, covering the retreat into the abandoned building they'd chosen as their rally location. "Not bad, Padawan. Vore." Kaz bounced back more blaster-fired, then jumped, flipping back behind Obi-Wan and firing quickly in the small gaps left by his master's defense like he'd been doing for the last few days. "I'll cover the retreat, Commander," Obi-Wan ordered. "You and Kaz get inside." Cody's shoulders tensed like he was about to argue, but he thought better of it, grabbing Kaz by the bicep and sprinting, Obi-Wan's blue lightsaber covering their escape. Satisfied that they made it to the relative safety of the building, Obi-Wan leapt into the air, jumping from droid to droid before taking one massive leap and landing inside the remains of the blown-out building, slicing 2 more droids before dropping down to join Cody. Rex chose that moment to barrel in through a gaping hole in the wall that was being used as a door. "They're right behind us, sir. They wiped out most of my unit. We had to pull out of there." Something exploded behind the captain, and they all ducked, sprinting for the nearest spot of cover and diving in. Obi-Wan turned to Rex, who was on his right, Cody and Kaz further down the line from them. They were all covered in dust and dirt, and Cody had a notable blaster burn on his left pauldron. "The shield has almost reached the heavy cannons," Obi-Wan said, panting. "We can't stop them, General," Rex said, his modulated voice coming out statusy from the snarl he was holding back. "Move the troops back to the heavy cannons." Obi-Wan pointed straight ahead towards said cannons. "Do everything you can to protect them. I'll delay the droids." "New draw, General!" Cody all but snarled, leaning out of cover briefly to shoot out a B-2 that made its way inside. "Absolutely not. You and Rex need to take Kaz and get to the cannons, Cody." "That's an order!" "Well, it's a terrible one." This time, Cody did snarl, his vocoder squealing as it processed the sound. "I'm not leaving you. Kaz needs you more than I do. Now go." "No, see. Stop arguing." Rex grabbed Cody by his arm and dragged his brother with him. "Kaz, move it." For the first time on the battlefield, Kaz hesitated. He looked from Rex's implacable helmet to Cody's roughly protesting form to his master's steadfastly determined face. Suddenly he felt Master Obi-Wan press down their bond, urging him to run. Run, go, run now. Padawan, please." His eyes started to tear, and he forced it down, turning to run and looking back briefly. "Kayase, Master Obi-Wan." "Get here, Kaz, go." Obi-Wan turned, not waiting to see if Kaz left, but feeling it in the force as both he and Cody were nearly dragged away by Rex. Thrusting out and up with his blade, Obi-Wan stabbed a droid through its central processor, deactivating it, and spun, spotting even more of them pouring through the hole that was blown through the building's wall. It felt like the blaster shots raining down on him were endless, but Obi-Wan kept pressing, kept fighting, until he was backed into a corner of the room, surrounded. Pulling the force to him like a cloak, Obi-Wan deactivated his lightsaber. The droids halted, all of them with their weapons pointed directly at him. A tank rolled up, and Obi-Wan watched with one eyebrow cocked as the lid flopped open, and the enemy general poked his head out like a gopher from his hole. Silence reigned as they sized each other up. "You was Kirkoiden." The opposing commander spoke first. "You must be the infamous General Kenobi." He gestured magnanimously with one hand. Obi-Wan felt the force whispering to him, and he spoke, sending a wave of reassurance down both his bond with Kaz and his one with Cody. "I surrender." One of the B-2 battle droids stomped forward and snatched his lightsaber from his belt. Obi-Wan gave it a dry look, but didn't comment. He turned his attention back to the enemy general, leaning half his body out of the cockpit of the tank. He resisted the urge to tap his foot. "Now, General Kenobi, order your troops to stand down." As the opposing general spoke, Obi-Wan reached out his hands and lifted some bits of rubble with the Force, a plan coming together in his mind. He'd recognized General Warm Loathsome almost immediately. He arranged some pieces of rubble like a meeting room, a long-ways table with two small chairs on opposite sides. He looked back up at the enemy commander, oozing confidence from every pore. He waved to the table and chairs in front of him. "General, please, have a seat." Obi-Wan dropped his arms, letting them hang placidly by his sides. "Have you gone mad?" the other general said, gesturing crudely at his head. Obi-Wan held in a smirk. He was taking the bait. I've conceded the battle. Now we simply have to negotiate the terms of surrender. Don't try any of your tricks, Jedi." The other being reluctantly agreed. "Surely, there's no reason we can't be civilized about this," Obi-Wan said, motioning to the meeting place he'd set up again. This seemed to pacify the Separatist general, and he disappeared back down the lid of the tank, turning it so the back was facing Obi-Wan. With a hiss of air, the loading ramp began to lower, and first a serving droid waddled out, followed by the general himself. The Kirkoitan made his way over, walking through the honor guard of droids that had formed with barely a glance to them. As he approached, Obi-Wan spoke. "It's a rare event to be able to meet one's opponent face to face." Obi-Wan's left hand was held up, palm open, and he motioned loosely towards General Loathsome. "You're a legend throughout the inner core." The general sat and spoke. "Thank you. The honor is all mine. I'm so glad you decided to surrender." Obi-Wan walked over and sat carefully in his own seat, spine straight and expression neutral. At some point, one must accept the reality of the situation. His mind flashed to the anguished faces of Kaz and Cody. He cleared his throat, putting a clenched fist up to his mouth and faking a cough. For them. He was doing this for them. "Might we have some refreshments?" Loathsome turned to the servant droid that had come with him. You bring us something liquid." "Thank you," Obi-Wan said, politely grateful. He smiled blandly. "This shouldn't take long." "I hate this. I hate every second of this," Kaz yelled, swinging his green lightsaber in angry arcs through the air, deflecting blaster fire to the best of his nascent abilities. He wasn't catching all of them like his master could, but the ones that would have hit him, he managed to stop. His fury bubbled and hissed out into the air like a pot of acid, stinging and burning everything it touched. "We don't have a choice," Rex bellowed back, bracing in with the men and firing back at the enemy army as they marched ever onward. "General Kenobi ordered us to go." "I don't care." Kaz dropped down and snarled in Rex's visor, angry and defiant for the first time since he'd arrived. He pivoted, making to sprint back to where they came from. And Cody's arm whipped out, fingers snagging him with an iron grip. "Let go of me, Cody. He's my master. I'm not leaving him." "You'll stay right here and not get killed," Cody shouted back, fear making his voice sharp, grabbing Kaz with his other hand and wrestling the boy down to the floor. Kaz hissed and spit like an angry loth cat, lashing out with his saber like it was a set of claws. It didn't have enough power to do anything other than lightly singe the plastoid of Cody's thigh, where it bounced harmlessly off. Kaz let out an inarticulate scream, young feet kicking and legs flailing, trying with everything he had to throw Cody off of him. His force presence was a wildfire, scorching everything it touched and feeding off of Cody's own sense of warning. "Let me go, let me go, let me go, let me go." Kaz wailed, tears starting to gather underneath his goggles. Hands slamming into Cody's chest plate, the hilt of the now deactivated saber dug painfully into his palm. Kaz, stop it! Cody yanked him in closer, pinning the boy between his chest and a piece of destroyed wall from the building they were hiding in. Arika, Gev, Shidechi, Kazika. No! Kaz sobbed, feebly pushing back against Cody. He was past the point of reason, nearly hysterical with the danger he could feel around him. The pain of the lights of his brothers snapping out one by one, faster than their entire stay on Christophsis, and the thought of his master being killed by droids. No, they're gonna kill him. They're gonna kill him, Cody. Cody, let me go. Shedetier, Kote. Naek, no. Cody pressed the visor of his helmet to the back of Kaz's head, his own emotions, a firestorm in the Force. He was still aware enough to realize that they had each other in a feedback loop, and he had no idea how to break it. Cody, I need you here, Rex shouted at them, voice filled with regret, but firm nonetheless. They're pressing in on us. Suddenly, Cody felt Obi-Wan reach down through their bond from wherever he was, pressing a calm reassurance into the both of them, freeing Cody's mind from the miasma of Kaz's terror enough that he could pull back, shield, and force Kaz's emotions away from himself. Kaz's sobs turned into hitching gasps. The feeling of Cody's own pain being abruptly ripped away was enough to startle him out of his own. An explosion in front of them jolted both of them upright. Kaz put his goggles on the top of his helmet, scrubbed at his eyes with a dirty hand, scooped up his saber from where it had fallen, and turned back to the front. All this just in time for a trooper to run up to Rex and deliver some truly awful news with even worse timing. Sir, General Kenobi's been captured. There's no one else left. Rex leaned down, gesturing emphatically with his pistol, stoically ignoring the shock coming from Kaz. We've got to hold out. We can't let that shield reach the cannons. He turned, yanking a stunned Cody back up to the debris they were using as cover. Keep fighting. We can't afford to quit. Kaz stuttered. He frowned, straightening, then ignited his emerald green blade and went back to the business of deflecting blaster bolts away from his aliot. He pulled the Force to him, more like a Jedi than Cody had ever seen him be before. Captured isn't dead, he's still alive. We can do this. That's it, kid, Rex cheered. We'll stop these clankers, rescue General Kenobi, and be back in time for dinner. Ibtor Jatnetur Ashad Kiramur! Cody shouted, the rallying cry of the men echoing back at him as he dived into the fight. He would hold. He would. For Obi-Wan, he would. Tea set out on the table by the servant droid. Obi-Wan watched as General Loathsome picked up his cup first and knocked it back in one quick swish. Obi-Wan finished stirring his, then lifted it, taking a careful sip and eyeing the other general over the rim. He could feel the other man's patience barely hanging on by a thread. A swift look towards the sky told him the shield generator was still operational, and he spared a moment to curse Anakin in his mind. Damn the man. But he always seemed to leave things to the last possible second, and not a moment before. And, of course, once you've taken custody of my troops, arrangements will need to be made for their food and shelter. Tell me, do you have enough supplies to... Enough of this, Loathsome shouted, right hand slicing through the air like a knife. He whipped it back around to point an accusing finger at Obi-Wan. You are stalling! Oh, hardly. Obi-Wan immediately objected, putting on his most innocent expression. General, there are numerous details to be discussed. Taking control of a large number of sentients requires. angry roar bellowing from his mouth. General Loathsome shot to his feet and overturned the table, causing their drinkware to clatter to the floor with the sounds of shattering porcelain. "Seize him!" The two super battle droids standing guard behind Obi-Wan grabbed him by his biceps and hoisted him into the air, dangling him several feet from the ground. Obi-Wan looked over at each of them before turning a politely surprised look onto the now irate General Loathsome. "Unless you call off your troops right now, I will have no choice but to destroy you." This was said with much gesturing and drama. Obi-Wan just looked blandly down at the other general, mentally urging Anakin to hurry the criff up. "Force, damn it all," Obi-Wan sighed. "Truthfully, I was hoping your shield would be knocked out by now." Loathsome gave him a truly scathing look, opened his mouth to respond, when suddenly, with a rippling shimmer, the shield fell. Obi-Wan smirked. "Ah, well." Flipping over the two droids holding him hostage, Obi-Wan landed behind them and used the Force to slam them both together so hard they were destroyed on impact. Not waiting for that move to register, Obi-Wan leapt into the air again and landed behind a very confused General Loathsome and seized him around the neck, pulling the Kirkoidan in front of him as a living shield. The droids still fired on him a few times before the general's panicked commands broke through, and they stopped. "Don't fire! Don't fire!" Loathsome choked out around the arm across his neck. "Well, looks like your shield is down, General." Obi-Wan grunted out, wrestling a still struggling Loathsome under his control. Just behind them, Obi-Wan heard the deafening rapport of the cannons firing. Rex and Cody had not wasted a moment. Obi-Wan's comlink started to beep, and he pulled it from his belt, activating it in front of the now placid General Loathsome. Admiral Yularen's blue hologram appeared over the disk, small and tiny like a digital doll. "General Kenobi, if you can hear me, we're through the blockade. The Separatist armada is in full retreat. Your reinforcements should be landing in a moment." At that, the galaxy blessed him with truly perfect timing, and two squadrons of LAATs flew overhead. One of them peeled off from the rest, circling down towards Obi-Wan's position, and he grinned. He could sense the Jedi Master aboard that ship. He shoved Loathsome away, causing the man to stumble before he regained his footing. The LAAT landed, the bay door sliding open to reveal Master Yoda and a squad of troopers. "Master Yoda!" Obi-Wan greeted, inclining his head in a slight bow. "Your timing is impeccable." He stepped to the side and gestured expansively towards the Kirkoidan. "May I introduce you to General Worm Loathsome?" "A pleasure to meet you, it is," Master Yoda said as he ambled over to them, leaning on his gimmer stick. "Here to accept your unconditional surrender, I am." Loathsome's lip curled up in disgust, but he didn't argue. "I surrender." "Into custody, take him," Yoda said to the squad behind him. They moved to do so with ease, snapping up the enemy general and hauling him away. As they did, the droids around them spluttered and died, falling to the ground with low whines of discontent as they were remotely deactivated when the command ship was destroyed in orbit. Obi-Wan picked his way easily through the debris to Master Yoda, summoning his lightsaber to himself as he went. "Master, if you wouldn't mind, I could use a lift." When the LAATs soared across the battlefield, the cheer from the men was deafening. Cody felt his blood sing, charging forward into the droid lines with renewed vigor. He could feel Obi-Wan's sense of triumph down their bond and knew his general was completely fine, free, and unharmed. Kaz seemed to feel it as well because he threw himself into the fight with a bull-headed determination that would have impressed even the toughest trainers on Kamino. Cody had the sense that the cadet was almost entirely taking out his earlier feelings of fear and anger on the droids. Cody couldn't really fault the kid for it, because he was doing the exact same thing. Quickly, the remaining forces from the Separatist army were mopped up as they all deactivated suddenly at once. Troopers moved around the battlefield, kicking over switched-off droids and clearing space for the gunships to land safely. One landed by Cody, Rex, and Kaz, and they hopped in, Rex giving the pilot coordinates to go pick up General Skywalker and his new Padawan. They were apparently stranded behind enemy lines and in need of a lift. Kaz clung to Cody like a Minoc to his ship, both of his arms wrapped around the commander as he gazed out of the open bay doors of the gunship. Cody smiled a little behind his helmet and wrapped his free arm comfortingly around the kid's shoulders, fingers curling around a dusty pauldron. "He's fine, kid," Cody told him, giving Kaz a consoling squeeze. "If I can feel it, you can feel it. Everything's all right." "I know," Kaz whispered, eyes looking vacantly out into the pinkish hue of the sky. "I need to meditate and get rid of all this mess in my head." "I think you'll get the chance here soon, Kaz," Cody replied. He looked over at Rex, who had been watching them steadily the entire time. "What do you think this new mission is?" "No idea," Rex answered, lifting his free hand in the air. "Probably some new harebrained adventure, though, knowing the Jedi." "I don't want a harebrained adventure. I want to meditate and take a nap. In that order." Kaz whined out, a sigh heaving his shoulders up and down. "I want my room back on the ship." "Soon, kid." Cody gave his shoulder a light pat. "Just a little bit more, and then you can rest." Kaz didn't get a chance to answer as the ship circled down, hovering over the ground as General Skywalker and the new Padawan jogged over and jumped in. Anakin smiled at them, greeting them with a short wave as he reached up and grabbed the handhold. Ahsoka was just tall enough to reach her own if she lifted her arm all the way up. Rex gave her a dubious look, but didn't intervene yet. "Thanks for the lift, Rex," Skywalker said, still running high after their success in destroying the shield. "Anytime, sir," Rex answered easily, sharing the general's enthusiasm. "So how'd you get in?" Kaz asked Ahsoka, perking up a little from Cody's side at the prospect of talking to his potential new friend. "Well, we hid under this crate and just kind of waited for them to walk right past us," Ahsoka answered, the markings on her face dancing with her expressions as she spoke. "And then we snuck up to the generator, but it was booby-trapped. All these droids just sprung up out of the ground and attacked us." "And whose fault was that, I wonder?" Anakin gave his new Padawan an exasperated look. It did not seem to affect her. "That explains why it took so long." "Ah, yeah, sorry about that." Anakin rubbed the back of his neck sheepishly. "So then what happened?" Kaz urged, intent upon the story. "Well, we kicked some droid butt, and I saved Master Skywalker's life. Then we blew up the shield generator." Ahsoka finished with an easy grin and a wave of her hand. She gestured towards Kaz. "What happened with you guys? We nearly got blown up." Kaz answered, eyes flicking away for a moment. He brightened suddenly. "But I got to fly with Cody in his jetpack from the top of a building." "That was pretty wizard." No fair." Ahsoka pouted a little, sending a betrayed look at Anakin. "Why didn't we have jetpacks, Sky Guy?" Kaz and Cody choked in unison at the nickname, both of them sharing a glance that Kaz could feel even through Cody's helmet. Manfully, Cody ignored it, but he fully intended to tell Obi-Wan about it and have a good laugh at Skywalker's expense the moment they were alone. "Because, Snips, we were sneaking. Jetpacks are not sneaky," General Skywalker pointed out, finger jabbing out at Ahsoka, expression mildly indignant. He leaned back, crossing his free arm back over his chest and putting on airs. "And, besides, we're Jedi. We don't need jetpacks. When we want to get somewhere, we just jump."